Hello everyone, my name is 7ko7, and today we are doing a podcast on Spider-Man Homecoming, and I'm with Arnold Stark 123.
And yes, here I am. Greetings and blessings, everybody, and greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Yes, we are going to be reviewing a MCU film called Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yup, and I'm excited to review this. Spider-Man Homecoming, I believe it came out in 2017, am I correct?
Yes, you are. The movie did come out in 2017, completely after Disney and Marvel's success with their Civil War project of him making an appearance. Honestly, I'm honestly glad that this movie exists. And I mean, after the big failure of the last reboot, like The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm honestly glad that this was like a breath of fresh air, even by Spider-Man standards. I'm honestly glad that they kind of fixed the whole legal stuff. I'm kind of glad.
Now, should we talk about maybe if they're asking a question like why why Sony has made the movie even though Disney owns rights to which they bought Marvel? Can we tell them why Sony made this movie and not Disney?
Well, yeah, because after their failure with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, their original contract was to make a Spider-Man movie every 5 to 6 years. Otherwise, they would lose the rights to the movies and the character. And because Kevin Feige and the CEO of Disney went to a meeting at Sony Pictures with the producer Amy Pascal, she did not like because they didn't like their original idea for The Amazing Spider-Man 3, they had no choice but to reboot the franchise with the actor that Sony originally didn't want, but they ended up choosing Tom Holland anyways, which was an actor Marvel Studios had decided to choose because they thought he'd be a perfect fit for their Civil War project. And after the legal stuff had wrapped up, they finally decided to share the character with Disney, and it brought us to here now. This is what we got now.
Now, if anyone's wondering what our thoughts on it, which that's mostly what the video is about, this is mostly a video after No Way Home, and we thought maybe it would be good to make our thoughts on Homecoming, which it was the start of Spider-Man, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and we wanted to see what our thoughts on it. One, the effects are pretty amazing in this movie. I actually enjoyed the effects in this movie. Like, if anyone's seen Spider-Man Homecoming, it is a very good movie, I must say. But what my favorite part about it was if no one remembers that whole ship thing where that gun, whatever, cut the ship in half. I love that scene, and seeing Spider-Man grab on to two halves of the ship, I love that. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and also, I was pretty impressed by how the movie actually turned out. Like, I was very disappointed when they didn't explain his origin story and Oscorp doesn't exist, Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn doesn't exist, and all the core elements of what made him be Spider-Man in the comics and in the past reboots. It honestly disappointed me, but the movie itself, though, after watching it, it was a lot better than I expected, if I'm being honest here. And I also even have the plot synopsis written here. Nobody else is going to see it because it's off screen, but I'm just reading from what I've gathered here, so you don't mind if I read this?
No problem at all.
Alright, so here's what I got. Thrilled by his experience with the Avengers after Captain America Civil War, young Peter Parker returns home to live with his Aunt May, under the watchful eye of mentor Tony Stark. Peter starts to embrace his newfound identity as Spider-Man. He also tries to return to his normal daily routine, distracted by the thought to become more than just a friendly neighborhood superhero. Peter must soon put his powers to the test when the evil Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, emerges to threaten everything that he holds dear. Okay, yeah, it sounds pretty simple even for Spider-Man projects go, but when you actually watch the movie, if you've seen it at all, it's actually very well executed, especially with the fact that this is actually the first live-action Spider-Man to feature the Vulture, because he was supposed to be featured in Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire. That couldn't happen because of Sony. He was also teased in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as like a placeholder for him to be in like the next movie, but that was also scrapped because of Sony meddling. So the fact that they even managed to put him in this at all is honestly very, very fascinating to me.
Yes. Now, what are my thoughts on? Let's put. Can we Can we do our thoughts on the villains like Shocker and Vulture? Can we put our two thoughts since they are mostly the main villain in this is mostly Vulture and his crew. Now, my thoughts on the Vulture, I do like the design, I guess. The helmet, I will admit, is nice, but I don't know if the technology and all, it's very funny, and I really like how they just steal parts when they were doing construction work. I do love that. But I don't know if I would take this or not. I did look at some of Vulture's some Spider-Man's TV series about the Vulture, which my favorite is the Spectacular Spider-Man one, played by Robert Englund. But in any case, I like that one. I kind of had something to do with technology. I guess it did. But I guess this one will do, even though I like, to tell you the truth, I like whatever the Vulture and Tobey Maguire 4 looked like, which I really don't know what it was going to look like. I bet they didn't. Did they ever link out the video, like the picture of what the Vulture was going to look like in Spider-Man 4?
Yeah, there actually was some concept art that was released around like before the Spider-Man reboot of Amazing Spider-Man came out of what the Vulture would have looked like, and his outfit was actually a recreation of the suit he had wore during the earlier comics from like the 1960s. Considering that Tobey Maguire's films were mostly comic book accurate anyway, and this was the early days of Hollywood, so obviously it was going to do that, but. Other than that, though, that's basically it. If I'm being honest, I like how the Vulture was portrayed here, and especially with the performance of Batman himself, Michael Keaton. He's very intimidating as the Vulture. I'm not going to lie here. And also with Shocker, I'm sorry. I like Shocker in this one. The whole thing with they switched him from a different race, that's completely fine. I just wish they utilized him more, if I'm being honest here.
Yes, I like that part where he just where he like hit Spider-Man and says, at the first start I was scared about this club, but damn.
I wasn't sure about this thing at first, but damn.
I did not. I was not expecting that, if I'm being honest here. In fact, the action scenes in this movie, they're actually pretty spot on compared to what Marvel had already released proper. Not saying the other action scenes in those films are bad. I just like how they managed to utilize all of the action and stuff that Marvel is known for, and then using it for this universe. I kind of like how it's done. Like, one of my favorite action scenes of the movie personally was when he got first encountered with the Vulture in the part when he was on the giant cruise ship, and another part was also in the ending. I really did like the climax of this movie.
Now, if anyone's wondering why the Vulture, the Shocker, and I did mention the Vulture crew, why are they doing this stuff? So, at the start of the movie, Spider-Man, it takes place after the entire event with Avengers versus the Atari, I believe. Is that what the villains were called in Avengers?
I think so, but in terms like the chronological timeline that Disney did put out, it did say that it takes place after Black Widow if you do not watch the post-credit scene, but overall though, yeah, I think it was following up to what Captain America Civil War had started off with him being introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so I think so.
So, any case, Michael Keaton and the rest of the crew, they're working on this, but sadly, a group of people, they said they do not need their help anymore, and he has a problem because he needs to feed his kids and this and that, and if he doesn't get paid for it, he can't come to his home and wife and mostly give them money. Well, not money, just to pay the bills, you know what I mean? So he gets mad,
Jeez.
and what are the guys in the suit? I forgot what he said. He angered the Vulture, and the Vulture punched him. And then suddenly, they raised their 4 guns at him. Even though that's a problem I have. 4 guns on one guy, even though he barely had a gun on him. That's just stupid. But any case.
Yeah, but well, I'm honestly surprised that that's how the movie started, if I'm being honest here. I wasn't expecting that.
So, and then they grab the Atari, their weapons, then grab it, all the weapons, they had, like, and, well, my apologies. After the Vulture went to a place, I don't know, he finds out that Tony Stark, he did this all. And then, we all know how Tony does. We all know how a superhero makes enemies. Because, just name it, Whiplash, Killian, I believe his name was, from, Iron Man 3. What about...
That villain sucked.
Question, what was the first... It's been a long time since I've seen the first Iron Man. What was his name again?
I honestly forgot what his name was, too, if I'm being honest. And
I did.
also, I'm just going to make this clear here. One of the weirdest scenes of the movie, which I also love, was this weird quote from the movie. Like, I'm sure that we might show footage of this scene or not, but this part here that I had actually loved was the part when Tony said this. Right after Peter says, "I'm nothing without this suit."
Oh.
Tony literally tells him, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it.
All I have, I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
And guess what? After rethinking this scene through and through, I finally realized that what he meant by that was the outfit that you wear isn't what makes you a superhero. It's the person under the mask that makes them a superhero. It's you, the person, that does the right thing. So even if Peter didn't have the suit, he would still have been a superhero, because it's not the suit that made him Spider-Man, it's the actions he does that made him a superhero from the beginning. And I think that it was a pretty heartfelt scene, even though it was being played off as a joke. So it was heartfelt and funny at the same time.
But you forgot one part in that movie. After he said that, he says, "God, I sound like my dad."
God, I sound like my dad.
He said that. In that part, I laughed like, oh my god. And we all know
I told you they were playing it off as a joke. I told you they were playing it off as a joke.
That I do agree. That was very funny. And after when he said that, I'm like, because we all know Tony, in Homecoming, he hated his father still, but then, Endgame, he loved him. Because if no one...
Yeah, but then we just gonna go on to the ending here, and I'm just gonna make this quick here. The twist reveal with him being Liz Allen's father, with Michael Keaton's character being Liz Allen's father. Oh yeah, Liz Allen is in this. I honestly found that pretty cool that they actually made the twist villain be her father this entire time. And also the ending climax where he's fighting the Vulture, trying to save him from the explosion that would happen in his suit. I also found that pretty heartfelt, especially with Spider-Man trying to come into grasp that what Tony had said to him before about him wearing the suit, it actually works because, well, he realized that even when he doesn't have the suit, he's still a superhero. He's balancing his life as an ordinary high school student with his superhero alter ego, and he has to come into questions with that. Like in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire, great power with comes great responsibility. He has great power being a superhero. His responsibility is, what would he do with his life now, not just as a high school kid, but also as a superhero. He's trying to come into grasp with the responsibility of being a kid while also with the responsibilities of being a superhero. And I think it was done very well here.
So, yes, I agree with that. And here's the thing. If anyone's wondering how much money this movie made, it made up to $739 million. That's pretty a lot, but, the other two Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, they made up to a $1 billion something, and I'm impressed. I'm surprised how this didn't get any, but I can really understand. It made the same amount as the first Spider-Man movie did.
That's because that Disney did have their hand in this, because they did confirm that they were co-financing and co-producing the movies, so it makes sense why it would get that much amount of money, especially with Marvel and Sony sharing profits with them as well. And also another thing that both me and 7ko7 can also agree on, that the movie feels, even though the movie's PG-13, it really does feel like a heroic coming-of-age story for all ages. Even with the PG-13 rating at all, it feels like a coming-of-age story that I can actually relate to, especially with the superhero being a teenager, almost a similar age as us. So I think the movie is amazing, honestly.
And if no one knew about this part about the movie, it actually shows in the movie Scorpion, but I don't know if we're ever gonna see Scorpion at all in Tom Holland's universe, since after that, in Far From Home, all we got was just him going on vacation and going against Mysterio. Nothing to do with Scorpion. I was a little furious at that because, tell you the truth, Scorpion was one of my interesting Spider-Man villains, and when he wasn't in the second one, I was furious.
Well, I'm gonna be honest here. I was a little disappointed by that too. But I mean, Craven the Hunter was also supposed to be in Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home, but they had to take his scenes out just so that they could prepare for his own standalone movie. Since Sony is coming back to that original idea they had for the Amazing Spider-Man, that is a cinematic universe with the Spider-Man characters. They're going back to that idea, so we're not sure. Let's see what happens, honestly, especially with Marvel Studios taking the norm of being creative freedom and all. I am honestly looking forward to what they'll do. And I mean, with all that being said, we both need to give our ratings of this movie. Let's give our ratings. What do you give it?
I love the effects. I love the storyline. Some are bad, some are good. I do love the suit in this movie, and I also love the second suit where it shows his custom suit. Now, I do love in this movie that they give him a second suit, like how a custom suit he made, where in Tobey Maguire's and Andrew Garfield's suits, I did not like, but this one I really liked, actually.
I mean, the Tobey Maguire outfit was early Hollywood, whereas the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 suits were meant to be more of like a more grounded and darker universe. So those suits, even though they're not my all-time favorite in terms of the Amazing Spider-Man, for his universe, it makes sense. It's a grounded, more grittier, more story-focused universe, whereas Tobey Maguire's outfit is comic book accurate, and it was early Hollywood, so stuff was going to be corny as hell for back then. So I love those suits because they make sense in the context of their worlds. But the MCU one is another one of my top favorites in terms of live action adaptations, honestly, and I do enjoy them. And also, Ned in this movie is also funny. He's a fun comic relief. Yes, he can be a little cliche at times with jokes, but he is funny. I did chuckle at his humor.
One of his jokes was my funny. I did show this to my little brother, and I felt really bad for showing it. In one of the parts of the movie, the teacher caught him helping Spider-Man, which he did not know, and she said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm just watching porn." And then I'm like, "Oh my god, oh my god."
Wait. Why would they mention porn in a PG-13 movie with in a Marvel movie even? Okay,
It
that
didn't
is
show
weird.
any. It did not show any. It just said the word. That's it. It just.
All right, but also MJ in this movie being played by Zendaya, she's fine. She's cool.
I did.
She just sounds like the girl with an attitude or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I would give this movie 9 out of 10. I do love this movie. Had some problems, but I did like this movie. It actually.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 here as well. 9 out of 10.
It got a 5 stars, and I forgot how it got certified fresh also on Rotten Tomatoes. Here you go. But in any case, I think that will do, right, Arnold?
Yeah, and honestly, this movie is amazing. It has its issues, I mean, duh, every movie has an issue. But because of the positives that it has, we can look past that. Overall, Spider-Man Homecoming, 9 out of 10. An amazing movie that I really do think it deserves even a lot more credit than it has. So with that being said, thank you all for watching this video. And also, just so you know, this video is going multi-platformed. We're not going to tell you what we mean by that. We're just going to let you see for yourselves. But that, in any case, see you all later. Have a blessed day, y'all. And 7ko7, you have any final words?
Bye-bye.